It's everything that happens in life happens while you're traveling. And I think that people think it's a vacation, and there is a true difference between a vacation and traveling. Because vacation is meant to relax, reset, take a break, escapism. And whenever you travel a lot, you are not escaping anymore. You're just on a different experience. A lot of people find themselves quite depressed sometimes, like shockingly unhappy because they realize that they brought that with them. No matter how small your backpack is, you bring you everywhere. And you can't escape from that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Design Her Travel podcast. I'm your host, Kim Anderson. As an avid traveler, global nomad, and someone who considers themselves a citizen of the world, I want to say welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. My hope in creating this podcast is to inspire you to take the leap of faith and to design the life of your dreams. For me, that includes connecting with like-minded individuals and creating a community of souls living their best lives out, in, and around the world. Each week, you'll hear stories and conversations from fellow travelers who have figured out how to incorporate travel as a key component in their daily lives. Their stories are beautiful and inspiring, just like you. I can't wait to go on this journey with you. So let's do this. Here we go. Hello, beautiful listeners. I wanted to take a moment to tell you about the Design Her Travel newsletter. It comes out weekly and it is full of information about the current week's episode and all things Design Her Travel. As 2024 progresses, Design Her Travel is set to launch our biggest year yet. And I would love for you to be the first to know, to hear about new offerings, to learn about the things happening behind the scenes, and to tune in to Design Her Travel. So go to the show notes, sign up in the link there, and let me know what you think. Hit reply on that first email. I would love to know about the places that you want to learn about guests you would like to hear from, and about all the things Design Her Travel and what it is to you. So sign up now. You'll be happy you did, and so will I. Hello, lovely listeners. Just a quick little insight before the episode begins. Today's guest is Kayla Ehrig, and you will hear in the episode how Kayla has written a new book. And so since our recording, that book has been launched. So if you are in the United States, you can pick up your copy beginning January 30th. And for those of you in the rest of the world, it is available now wherever you get your books. The title is called How to Be a Digital Nomad, Build a Successful Career While Traveling the World. And you will hear in this episode how beautifully eloquent Kayla is and how much she really offers in the world. She is wise and has a lot of experience, and this book is a real treasure. So get out there and purchase your copy now. I know that you will love it as much as I did. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Design Her Travel podcast. I am so excited to be with you today and bring another really beautiful episode to you. I have such a fantastic guest. Today, I have on the show Kayla Ehrig. Kayla is a gal trying to live her ideal lifestyle and bring others along with her. Her life themes typically revolve around fulfillment, purpose, community, with dashes of seeing the world and making money. Kayla is the creator of the travel blog Writing from Nowhere and the author of a new book titled How to Become a Digital Nomad, Building a Successful Career While Traveling the World. Her work has been featured in Yahoo, Bucket List Bombshells, GoDaddy, Explode Your Traffic, and she was recently featured as a community SEO expert on LinkedIn. So welcome to the show, Kayla. I'm so excited to have you on.
Hi, Kim. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Yeah. So we've been working on getting this together for a while. And I have to say, you've had some really major accomplishments in the last few months since we started. So we will dive into that in just a little bit. I would like to start out, though. On your blog, you talk about how you were living, a good life, a decent life, a regular life, just a life where you had a job, you made some money, you did your things, but you had this sense of unfulfillment. And so many guests on the show and so many of us in life have had that moment where we're like, is this it? Is this really, really it? And so you decided to create your own life and start earning money in a way that fulfilled you. And so did you have like a defining moment? Did you just have enough? And how did you decide what it was you were going to do to earn money?
I became obsessed with this question. Wasn't life supposed to be more fun? And I can't explain why I couldn't get over this like belief that life was supposed to be more fun. I don't know, even, you're living your dreams. Like I was pretty much living my dreams. I just moved to Chicago. I got a job that I had recently described as a dream job. I was living alone for the first time, which was like a wealth milestone at 23. That was like a big thing for me. And I just wasn't enjoying life outside of work. I worked a lot and I found myself like working more than I had to because I didn't really know what else to do with my time. And I started traveling, exploring Chicago. I just relocated there and also traveling locally in the area, just kind of doing day trips. And I felt for some reason, like so many of us do, that travel must be the answer to this feeling that we're bored or unfulfilled. I just became hooked on this idea and I started talking to people in my life who had traveled, and no one regretted it. I don't know why I expected people to, but no one. It was, I went here, I went there. It wasn't as scary or dangerous or impossible as it seems. And something kept being repeated. People kept saying, you never regret travel. And that just, I internalized that. And I thought, well, I need to do this or I'm going to always wonder why I didn't. I'm going to be one of those people on their deathbed. Everybody regrets the things that they didn't do. And I thought, this is going to be my thing. I have no reason to not do this now. And I got rid of all my stuff. And well, I put most of my belongings into a storage unit. And I bought a one-way ticket to Mexico. And I just tried traveling, tried being abroad. I made all the mistakes. It was so embarrassing. I have so many embarrassing stories of things, mistakes and faux pas. And it's been a journey, but I've been abroad more or less since then. That was in 2017. I backpacked through Latin America. Then I moved to the Netherlands and I ended up immigrating in the Netherlands and getting citizenship. And I've traveled Europe and just was in Mexico. And yeah, I haven't lived in the US since then. So it's been 6 years of experiences that I could have very easily never had. And I'm really lucky.
Yeah, I love that. And there are a few key points in there that I think are brilliant. And you're right. One is that no one ever regrets doing it. Like there is never a person that says, I never wish I'd have taken that trip. Like you just don't hear that. Those are when you ask someone about their life, those are the highlights. Those are the things they want to tell first. Those are their accomplishments. And I love that you were just internalized that. We're like, oh, this is like a piece of wisdom here. I think I'll go with that. And the other thing that I really loved was, you were working more than you had to because you didn't know what else to do with yourself and your time. And I find that that is very inherently American as well, because Americans work. Like it's just work is who they are, not what they do. And so kudos to you for being able to internalize that information and make a big change. And so that's a pretty massive leap that you went from having this sort of standardized life into taking a one-way trip to Mexico. And so when you went on your trip, did you leave with the intention to create your own business, to start your own life under your sort of guidelines and desires?
I did not have a big plan. I just felt like I actually told people this, and it sounds so cheesy to say. It still feels cheesy to say out loud. But I would tell people I want to be a leaf in the universe and I just want to blow where I'm supposed to go. And
Mm,
I didn't have a huge plan because I felt so lost, but it wasn't necessarily lost in a negative way. It felt like kind of accepting this lack of control,
mm,
that well, we never have as much control as we think we do in life. And then realizing that you kind of like nitpicked your life and got exactly what you wanted. And it was like, no, it's not the moment. It's not the like eureka. The music didn't swell. I didn't, this wasn't the climax of the movie. I'm just kind of waiting for what is. And I didn't have a big plan, but I knew that I knew I didn't want to keep living the way that I was, like working always more than 40 hours. And none of the hobbies I liked. I tried stuck, and I was like, I didn't even have friendships that really exceeded the bar. Like I could easily go out for a Friday night out on the town, but I thought, gosh, I just felt like life was missing a lot of meaning. And travel is so many things, but the conversations are so meaningful, like it's just amazing the people you meet. And you don't even talk about what you do for work. If you meet someone new in life, you're like, oh, what do you do? And then at a hostel, you can talk to someone for like 7 hours and never even think to ask that question.
Yeah, it's almost a surprise when you find out that what they do. You're like, oh, really? Like, oh, wow. And sometimes that makes sense. And sometimes it's like so wildly unique that you're just mind blown. It's like this other surprise element. And so I love that you accepted the lack of control in life. I think that that's probably like the magic sauce for all of us, is that you're right. We can't control. We want to control the outcome. We want to control the elements. We want to control the end result. But, I've personally seen it for myself when I hold on so tightly to control it, the end result, I'm like, this freaking sucks. This is not what I wanted. And it's like, oh, okay, you got to let go a little bit. You cannot receive with a closed fist.
Oh,
So
I love that. I used to describe my hands to people. I would tell people, I feel like I've been holding on so tight that my knuckles are white. And
mm,
I couldn't do it in a small way. I like couldn't just take a deep breath and let go. I had to like completely remove myself from my environment. I don't know why I needed such extreme measures. It's effective.
yes, I love it. Jess Coleman, she is the travel transformation coach, and she says she flipped the script. She has a program called Flip the Script, and her family jokes, they say, you didn't flip the script, you burnt the script. And it's so true. Sometimes we just have to completely remove ourselves from every single element known in life to be able to look at our life truly, to see, who are we? What do we want? What does make us happy? What would we like to create more of? You took this leap, you're spending this time overseas, you're enjoying it. And so what was the evolution where you began the blog and you began your Pinterest journey? Take us through that time in your life.
I met someone at the first hostel I stayed at in this new phase of life. And I was eating breakfast, and this woman sat down, and of course, it was like day one for me of kind of like trying this new lifestyle. And I was like, oh, well, what do you do? Of course, starting with the basic. I wasn't
Uh-huh.
completely out of my element yet. And she told me that she had an online business, and it was the first time I really spoke to someone one on one, and she didn't look like an entrepreneur. She wasn't wearing a power suit. To me, it was like, what? She's sitting in front of me on like an old t-shirt. I don't know. There was something so casual about it. And she told me that she had this online business and talked about it a little bit and talked about her lifestyle and how she traveled full time. And I thought, oh my gosh, people are really doing that. Like normal people. She looked normal
Uh-huh.
to me. And I guess I kind of have an obsession with normal people doing traveling. I say that in the book at like the very beginning of my book. I say, you already look like a digital nomad the way you are. Digital nomadism is for normal people because it somehow feels like because you're not necessarily ready to do things. Like I wasn't ready to start an online business. So I assumed I had to go through this big evolution, and it had to kind of come out with me like in a blazer on the other side. I had to look so different than I was. I don't know why it felt so complex, but I started my website in a hostel in London on a bit of a whim, writing from nowhere. I kind of picked that on a whim. And I just felt like if other people aren't figuring this out, why couldn't I figure this out? And that was a motto of mine. If they could, I can. And I didn't always believe it, but I always said it to myself. I would write it in my planner whenever I didn't know what to do. I would write, hey, I would just write that. I wrote that down just probably hundreds of times to remind myself, if they could, I can. And I just figured it out. It was very bumpy and rough and turbulent and, It's everything, like it's all of life, like travel or starting a business. It's all the emotions of life. It's like happy,
Mm.
sad, ups, downs, success, failure. Just like you go out, like I was looking for a pair of boots today. I was shopping in the Netherlands and I couldn't find the boots. I went to like 12 stores and couldn't find anything. And then, like that's just what having an online business is like. Sometimes you spend all day and you can't get the thing done that you want to do. And sometimes you try to do this one thing traveling, you just need to like catch a bus to the next town and you can't catch the bus and something goes wrong. And it's just all of life wrapped into all of these little experiences that seem like so different and scary, but it's not different. It is scary, but it's not different than anything else that we do in life.
That's true. I've heard entrepreneurship likened to the greatest spiritual journey you can take. You have so many ups and downs and emotions and fear and, celebration when you're really brave. And we should celebrate a little more, I think, sometimes, because it's really easy to, look at the days when you try so hard to make one thing happen and the tech won't work, or you just can't figure out the one link, or you can't find the thing that makes the other thing talk to that thing. And you're just like,
Oh,
why
it's
is
amazing.
this so? Yeah, it is amazing. But the accomplishment and the that you feel when someone reads your work, or someone listens to your story, or someone contacts you or reaches out just out of the blue and says, "Hey, thanks. This was really amazing." And so it gives you that little bit of juice to keep going.
Yeah, you said that beautifully.
Here you are in a hostel in London, starting a travel blog. And then you realize you can make money doing this travel blog thing, and you're learning SEO, and this becomes something that you're actually quite good at, and start helping others. So how did that come to be? And how, you focused on Pinterest and LinkedIn, which are two, I feel like, the upcoming ways to sort of reach out instead of just the Instagram reel of the world. And so how did you develop your practices in those fields, in those arenas?
It was very organic. So I was using Pinterest to drive website traffic to my website, and I got good at it. My website or my Pinterest account. So on Pinterest, if you're a creator, you will have a number, like the impressions, the number of people that you reach a month is actually listed. So instead of having just a follower count like Instagram or
Mhm.
TikTok, you also see impressions. So it's called monthly views is the number. And my account was reaching maybe at this point 5 million people a month.
Wow.
And I was bored during lockdown, like a lot of us. I had been nannying actually in the Netherlands. I was nannying to kids who didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Dutch at the time because these parents wanted their kids to be exposed to English and I needed work. And I thought, I'm not going to get an office job. I'm going to make this business work. But man, that was a rough detour to take. I did that for 2 years while I learned SEO and I learned Pinterest and I tried to build up website traffic and come up with a business model. Because a blog on its own is not a business model until you have a lot of
Mhm.
traffic to capitalize on that. And I was helping people during lockdown because childcare was shut down with the pandemic. And I was answering questions on Facebook groups for bloggers. And one woman was like, but I don't understand this. And I was like, I took a screenshot and I'm like, you have to do this here. That's the setting you're missing. And she said, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. But then what about this? And I told her, do this exact steps. I just knew it because I was doing it every day. And she sent me a message that changed my life. She said, could I pay you to run my Pinterest account? And that is
Mm.
how my business actually went from just a blog to something that returned monthly income to me. In that message, I was like dancing around my apartment, screaming. And that one client
Yeah.
was as much money as I made from one family nannying. And then I got a second one within a week or two, and then a third. And it just happened very naturally. And now I also do SEO. That's the main part of my business. But that happened very similarly. People were asking me for help. I was answering questions. And then people asked, hey, I need a writer. Can you write for me? And it was very organic. I could pretend I had like a business plan, and I did not. I still don't have a business. I don't even have a logo for my website still. I mean, it's branded. It all has a vibe, but it's not official, or it doesn't look, I didn't do any of the things that I thought I needed to do to become like a real business, air quotes, real business. And it employs both me and my husband now, and we travel full time. And I immigrated on my like little blog. People always say that in the beginning. How's your little blog? I'm like, nothing's little, but yeah, no, it's like I'm way in the hole on that right now. For like 2 years, I spent money and did not make money back. So yeah, it was a little blog at one point, but now, yeah, I actually got Dutch citizenship based off of that little blog because I could host myself, that I show that I can support myself in the country. And you just never know what's going to happen whenever, like, you do not need to see the staircase. I know that's the cliche, but all you have to do is say, I want this to happen for me. I think it's all you have to do is say, I really want this. And then put everything that you can into figuring that path out. And it's rough. It's like very much, at least for me, it was very rough. Like I was so lost. I remember saying at the time, I was telling my husband and my friends, and like, I feel like I'm lost in the woods, but I am so far lost that I couldn't even find my way back to the path. And I thought, I just don't want to get a normal job. I want this so badly for myself. Why can't I make it happen? And it did happen. It just happened in its own time. It was not one of those like viral Instagram reel success stories of like 2 months ago I did this and now this happened. 2 years of like hustling, nannying, not glamorous, can't afford a beer with your friends at the bar. 2 years. I say that a lot whenever I talk about it because I feel like I need people to hear that it can be slow and still work. I need people to hear that like it is not fast for a lot of people.
Yeah, the viral success stories are much fewer and far between than the people who are slogging away, spending money, not getting paid to do what they want to do, but knowing that they're building a foundation of something that they can't yet see. It does sound crazy to some people that are like, well, when are you going to get paid for that? You're like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I know that that's coming. I don't know how or where. And I love that, you wanted to be a leaf blowing in the wind, and here life brings you in this flow, your business. It literally lands in your lap and says, hey, Kayla, guess what? Can you do this for me? Can I pay you to do this? And you said yes. And it's so amazing. I love that. And walk us back to you coming to the Netherlands. Were you like, had you already met your husband? Did you meet him when you were there? Like, what was your connection there and allowed you to get your citizenship?
I met my husband in Spanish school in Guatemala. And we were both at the beginning of these solo trips. We were both doing searching. He was a high school English teacher and he was wondering, is this what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life? And I was lost in my own way. And we both flew in from like other sides of the world, flew into the Cancun, Mexico airport on the exact same day. And then we went separate directions for a month, but then we bumped together in Spanish school in Guatemala a month later. And within a few months, we traveled together for months. And then I moved to the Netherlands. His dad was ill, and that like abruptly ended his trip. And I went with him back, and he hosted me on a partnership visa at first. And then I integrated and had to go through 7 steps to integrate into Dutch society, which could be it's like a whole funny story, much of which I like signed an NDA that I cannot discuss the Dutch immigration process, but it's very entertaining, like getting trainings on culture. Like you see 2 men kissing in the park. What do you think you should do? And it's like, probably nothing. And they're like, yes, nothing. In this country, 2 men are allowed to kiss in the park. Oh, it's so funny. The training, very important. Because that it's very good that exists. And I learned a lot. I learned shocking things, actually. That's like a funny thing that, of course, I didn't need to learn. It was just amazing, like the whole process of immigrating. I had to take 4 language exams, a Dutch culture and society exam, a cultural training, a 3-day cultural training, and I had to support myself, which I was able to do with my business. And I became Dutch a couple months ago, actually. It became official. Thank you. I have my red passport now. I love pulling that out of my wallet. Seeing 2 passports is like a special feeling.
Yeah, totally. You did not have to give up your US passport to get the Dutch passport. Well done.
I was lucky. I was it was all very fortunate. Yeah, it was a nice thing.
Yeah, very cool. And so on your blog, one of the things, and you and I touched about this a little bit, and we kind of talked about this already. We as travelers, it's the thing that fills our soul. Whatever it is about that, it's the thing that we want more of. It's the experience in life that for many of us, we just feel alive. We feel that feeling that life is supposed to be exciting and we're supposed to feel this freedom on a daily basis. And so, but in living that lifestyle, it's not always easy. things happen. And so you are very honest about that on your blog. And so tell us a little bit about some of those things or some of the ideologies you wish people knew when starting out on this journey, because it's not just like life. It's not always a bed of roses.
Yeah, it's everything that happens in life happens while you're traveling. And I think that people think it's a vacation, and there is a true difference between a vacation and traveling. Because vacation is meant to relax, reset, take a break, escapism. And whenever you travel a lot, like let's say you're traveling for 3 months, you are not escaping anymore. You're just on a different experience. And I talk about this a lot in my book about becoming a digital nomad. So many people I've heard have been shocked, like they become a full-time traveler and they're trying to escape from, sometimes they're trying to escape from something. Maybe it's boredom, which is fine. Maybe it's, emotions that they're not coping with. And a lot of people find themselves quite depressed sometimes, like shockingly unhappy because they realize that they brought that with them.
Mhm.
No matter how small your backpack is, you bring you everywhere. And you
Mhm.
can't escape from that. There's like no number of like waterfall hikes and like hiking Machu Picchu. You can only do like shocking things every so often. It's not every day. Like it's not all postcard worthy moments. And you have to become very at peace with yourself if you're going to travel long term because you are constantly, you become a bit numb. Numb's the wrong word, but you're not escaping. It's not contrast anymore. Like you're like cold, like in winter, you're like, oh, I need a vacation. So you go to the beach and you think, oh, it's so hot. It's the sand. I love swimming. It's so nice to not be working. But then if you stayed there for a year, you would think, gosh, I just want the snow. I just want to be cold. I want to put a scarf on. I don't want to be sweating for once. And you will always crave that contrast. Like life's pendulum just keeps swinging. And I think that surprises people a lot.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I love that life's pendulum just keeps swinging. We are the one thing that we always have with us. And I think in my experience as well, when traveling and you're faced with situations that are challenging, you really learn who you are and how you deal with confrontation or deal with challenge in a situation where you might already be slightly uncomfortable. So you really do get faced with, the good, the bad, and the ugly of who you are as an individual. And I think that what you're speaking of might be that realization that, oh, it's not the place that I can blame.
Hmm.
There's one thing that's consistent here. There's one common denominator, and it's me.
Yes.
So what do I do about that?
I blamed a lot on my cubicle, I can honestly say, and it was not the problem it was not the source of all my issues. And I got faced with that. It's like a little bit of a kick in the teeth to be somewhere
Mm,
really nice, like you're like looking at the ocean, it's beautiful, sunset, sipping a coconut, and you realize, oh, I'm still really unhappy. There's no more kind of confrontational place to have to work on that than abroad because you're maybe not distracted as well. Like you don't have your comforts in life
mm,
or the company that you normally have, or you're just more a bit raw to it all because you think I should be happy now. And
mm,
I think that travel ultimately makes you a better person. But I think a lot of people go through a bit of a bumpy takeoff to get there, to like reach that cruising altitude of being more emotionally aware. And it's a bit like starting a business. It's like make it really kind of you have to handle it. It's like much more of an emotional affair than you attribute it to be in the beginning.
yeah. And I think, you're right when it comes down, or I really like when you said you're surrounded by other people that aren't your friends or your family from home or whatever. And so when you're in that new scenario, then the other people's expectation of you is different than people that have known you your whole life. So, and not that the new people have expectation, but you're also realizing, oh, it's not the other people or their expectations of me. It's actually me in a different scenario with the same emotions. And so it is a good mirror to see how we are in the world, quite literally.
Yeah, you nailed it. It is the mirror. It's the perfect way to say it.
Yeah. And so now you have this beautiful blog. You have a business helping people with their SEO and Pinterest still. And you have just written a new book. And so, how was this part of your long term plan? How did this journey of writing a book come to be?
Oh, it was so random. It's the classic 80-20 rule that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. I was posting on LinkedIn a little bit about my travels, not a lot. I didn't want to be like the digital nomad person. I was just sharing snippets. And then I got a message from a publisher that said, "Hey, have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I thought they were trying to sell me something else, so I ignored it for weeks. I was in Portugal and I was like, I'm not going to waste my time. And then they followed up and they were like, "We would love to talk." And I felt so embarrassed because I looked and saw, wait, this person is an editor for a publishing house. And we got on Zoom and I was like not comprehending that they wanted me to write a book. I thought they were going to ask me to hook them up with someone that I might know. I was really, truly like not comprehending the situation. And they said, "We want you." And I was honest. I said, "But why me?" And they said, "Well, we liked your writing, and we're looking for someone to write this book." And it was kind of as simple as that they found my post on LinkedIn because they were searching under the digital nomad hashtag. And then they saw me and then they liked the post that they saw. And then they went to my website and saw that I was a writer. And then they reached out. And that was only a year ago, maybe a little
Wow.
bit less since our initial call. It's been 11 months. And
Wow.
they offered me a book deal in December, and then I signed it and wrote the whole book by the end of June. Now it's being edited still. I'm getting endorsements right now, actually, which is like the most horrible process. Sending people emails and being like, "Hello, could you please compliment me?" It's a mirror. It is it's very awkward, but it's a little bit difficult. Yeah, having to get like a dozen endorsements for the book.
When it comes to endorsements, you reach out to someone. Do you send them a copy of the book and say, "Hey, can you read this? Can you say a good word or something about it?" Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
how that
So like
works.
whenever you
Okay.
pick up a book and it's like thrilling, captivating to the last page, like those
Uh-huh.
little like sexy little snippets. So that's what I'm trying to get. Yeah. And I've gotten like 6, so I can breathe easy because I needed a minimum of 6. But you also don't want to be like the loser that could only get the minimum number. So it's really uncomfortable for me, but I've gotten some really nice things. So it also is very reaffirming because I'm not someone who's super insecure, like needing, I don't need to hear all the time, like, "You're a good writer, you're a good writer." But I feel like right now, I actually do need to hear that. I'm very nervous
Uh,
because I wasn't
uh,
like, "Look at me, let me pitch this book, great idea," to this publisher. It was very natural. Like everything else in my business has been so natural. And everything, it's just another thing that's very confronting and makes you wonder, gosh, am I good enough for this? Am I the right person
mm,
for this? Am I the right vessel for this message, or would someone
mm.
else do a better job? And I'm happy with the product, with the end result, but it's been emotional.
It's quite vulnerable for someone to, I mean, it's one thing to read a blog article, which still feels vulnerable, or put any creation out into the world, but to have an entire book, which, you poured your heart and soul into for this length of time in life and have people read it, I can only imagine how vulnerable that must feel.
I can't edit it. That's the hardest thing. Like, what if I make a mistake? Like, I make mistakes all the time. I'm not a perfectionist who feels like, well, I can sleep easy knowing that every single I was dotted and every T was crossed. I'm more organic. I'm a little bit less polished with my writing. That's why I have someone else edit. Like, I don't edit my own writing. I always have like a proofread step. It's just making me look at my own like habits, and it's also making me, not very often in life that an event like really, really makes you take stock of your natural gifts and makes you
Mm.
say, "I am very bad at that." And it's okay. It's like not a bad thing. I'm not a bad person. I'm not like stupid or a failure, but I am very bad at that. And it's good that you need to find someone who's not to help you.
Yeah, it's compliment. And that's that where that phrase teamwork makes the dream work comes into play. It's collaboration is the key. It makes things
Yes.
so much easier. Everyone has a different gift that complements yours. How did you come up with your list of people that you would like to promote or send the book to, like to get a review from? Were you given a list, or were you like, "This is my dream list. I want to reach out to these people. If I can get them to review it, then
Yeah.
great." How did you come up with that?
So far, I've only reached out to people who know my writing already. So that was the basis. Like, "Hey, since I've written for you in the past and you're familiar and you know my style." So they already appreciate my writing. And I've just been reaching out to people who I already know and are familiar with my work. To me, I wanted to succeed at getting endorsements because it's not a big turnaround either. It's like 2 weeks. So it's a big ask to say, hey, do you want to read
Yeah.
my book and say something nice about it? Very
Yeah.
quickly, clear your schedule because there's no time. So I'm still reaching out to more people. I have not pitched it to anyone who doesn't know me. And I might, but it's all a little bit crazy. Like I don't know how. Like this whole process is very learn as you go. Like I didn't even know I had to get endorsements. And it sounds silly to say because every book you see at, Barnes and Noble, every book has endorsements on it. So of course my
Yeah.
book had to, but somehow it never occurred to me that I had to do that because no one gives you like a spreadsheet of all the steps of writing a book. It's like, okay, here you go. Like my editor said, you have 6 months. You can handle that how you would like. So I broke the whole book up into a spreadsheet schedule based on word count, and I built in a 1 month buffer, and I wrote the whole book. And then I sent him pieces as I went. It was due July 4th, and I sent him it July 3rd. I sent him the whole book in a PDF or in a Google Doc.
Wow. And so that's pretty impressive because it seems like quite a monumental task. And this is something that I always actually find quite interesting and am curious about because everyone has, when you are designing life of your dreams and you are creating your own business, you also have to really get to know yourself in a multitude of ways. Like, when am I most proficient at this task? When am I most proficient at that? What am I good at? What do I need to outsource? You really, really do have to look at your strengths and weaknesses and how to manage your time most effectively. Because, right, we're doing this to be able to have and create freedom in our life. So there's times when you have to push, and then there's times when you can relax. And this, I know, evolves over time, depending on what your task at hand is. But what is it? What are some of the practices for you that you use to help manage your time and stay grounded in a life that is nomadic?
I found that repetition was very impactful for me. So my tendency is to pull back. I don't like to walk down, like go too far in the wrong direction. I always kind of see it that way. So whenever I'm not sure of which way to go, I want to step back and look at the map. And I might pause for like 6 months on a project and not pick it back up because I'm not sure where to go next. And the book forced me to work repeatedly for months whenever I felt like I had no idea if I was doing a good job. And that was actually an enormous to my benefit that I was pushed. It was like just pushed on through the tunnel to the other side. And I wish I could force myself to do that more often, but having like a accountability as well, like external accountability. I think a lot of people have huge success with a coach for this reason because they don't want to show up at the next coaching session and say that they didn't do the thing that they said they were going to do. And for me, an editor was that external force that was a very powerful motivational tool because I can disappoint myself, but I cannot disappoint someone else. That haunts me. So that was very impactful.
That makes sense. So how did you structure your days? Did you wake up and say, I'm writing for this amount of time? And what did that look like?
I usually like to structure my weeks. So I'll decide what I want to get done in a week. And then however the bacon gets made is fine. I often have very long. So on Sunday is like the first and the last day of the week. And I like to close everything out from the week before on Sundays. So I often work like 12 hours on Sunday. But as someone who's self-employed, it doesn't bother me because I might take like Monday through Wednesday off because I'm traveling or out exploring. So I don't hold any real like meeting to the weekend in the traditional sense. But for me, deciding what to get done in the week and then just prioritizing from there or knowing like sometimes I would sit down to write a chapter of the book on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I would just say, it's not happening today. And you know what? I can't motivate myself with the carrot, but Sunday is the stick. Sunday, I need to get it done and I will because I'm not going to fail to meet my deadlines. And then that also opens up space to work on things that you're kind of in the mood for that day because you like writer's block is one thing, but we have that block with everything where we need to edit our websites. We just can't get in the groove. And if you're in the mood to do something, I feel like kind of decide what will get done in the week and then pick the thing you're in the mood to do. That's how I handle my work.
Yeah, it makes sense. I know for me personally, that I have my list for the week or the ongoing list. And so if I can't force myself to do it, but I might all of a sudden be like, oh, I really wanted to clean something and I'll tidy all of that up. And then that will help me clear the space and move into the next task. And it is interesting when you give yourself the grace to be able to do the thing that you really feel like doing. There's a fine line between doing that and also using that as a resistance. Like, there's a fine line between resistance and being in the flow. And I think that line it's a little wobbly and it can go either way. So it's definitely, there's a practice and art to being a creator and putting things out into the world and managing your own time as a business. It's there's an art.
The flow is a mysterious force. But if you can find a way to be honest with yourself, I find that helped me. It took me a very long time, but to honestly say, I am not procrastinating. I am not in the flow, and I will do it if I have to on Sunday, but I'm not going to sit here today. That's one of my personal rules for working is if it's taking me twice as long, it's time to move on. It's time to do something else. Unless it's do or die for a client, I will not do something if it's taking me 2 times as long to accomplish it, whether that's like a technical issue, like the Wi-Fi is really slow and I'm spending 2 hours when it should have been done, or a flow issue. I don't like to live that way. It makes me frustrated and angry with my workflow. And especially whenever you're traveling, if you are working and traveling, it's just not a good way to live. You like see the world outside your window and you're working slowly and inefficiently. And inefficient working is always a problem, but it's really a problem whenever you're traveling because you kind of lose sense of like, what am I even doing here if I'm going to spend 16 hours inside when I could have been outside for half of this time?
Yeah, I think that's great. You're not procrastinating. You're just not in the flow. That it's true because when you are in the flow, you get things done in like lightning speed. It's like warp speed. It's done before you know it. And a day's gone and you've just been in this zone. And so I think that what you're talking about is that magic that people are able, we're able to tap into, and we can move mountains in tiny amounts of time if we give ourselves the grace to deprogram the conditioning that we have to be working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, constantly and maximum output. Like those are very deep-seated programming. So it takes a long time to break out of that and say, but wait a second, as a human, how do I really work? Well, sometimes that's in the morning, sometimes that's in the evening, sometimes that's for days, sometimes that's not for weeks, whatever it is. So that's really great. The lessons that you've learned along the way. I think that's, more of us can benefit from adopting those. Those are beautiful.
It's hard because that programming you talked about is so enforced by other people. And I always encourage people to not listen to advice that from people that doing what they want to do, like people will say, oh, it's so sad that you're working on Sunday. I've heard this many times. And I'm like, I think it's really sad that you're working 9 to 5 in the same place. I would never say that because it's not my life. But if we're like being honest, like if you're honestly telling me what you think is sad about my life, well, that's honestly what I think is sad about yours. And it doesn't matter because what works for my life doesn't work for yours. And I think that society doesn't like you to touch certain things. If you don't want to have kids, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's a very sensitive thing that people feel like you have to maintain that. And if you don't want to work a normal like 9 to 5 job, people are pretty open to other ways of living, except for a few very gated topics. And like, it's like children and work are maybe two of the most gated. I don't know why. Some topics are very emotional, like culturally. And that's one of them. Work is one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's almost a sense of if you don't maintain a strict 9 to 5 schedule, or if you say, I don't really work well in the mornings, you almost have to continuously defend that until you just say, okay, wait, that's not my issue. That's your issue, but there is almost an emphasis or an unspoken tone that, oh, you must be lazy, or you must be, there's something in it. If you don't follow this traditional route, especially with employment, what's wrong with you? Like they just can't grasp that you don't want to work these hours, these sort of factory hours. They just don't work anymore. So
no, and I think people feel sensitive, like, but they bucked up and did it anyway. And they didn't like it, but they did it. And I feel sad sometimes. I've said this outright to people. I've said, well, maybe I could, but I don't want to. And then you get into a lot of generational conversations as well. And somebody who was a member of the boomer generation, they said, I would have done that too if that opportunity had existed. And I thought, yeah, I bet you would have loved to travel like that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that's what's underneath of it. It's not like everyone's jealous. Everyone who criticizes us is jealous or anything. But sometimes there's that like, oh, I didn't know that was an option to just
Mhm.
not work the mornings and to start my own business or to travel and work from the road. And I think that you never know whenever you're stepping on someone's regret, on someone's toes, whenever they think, or maybe I didn't, not to bring it back to kids. If you don't want kids and people think, but I had to have kids, but I thought I had to do that route in life. Not that people are regretting their kids. I'm not implying that, but you just never know whenever you're touching on something that's very sensitive to other people.
Yes. And I think that a lot of the times you're stepping on someone else's regrets. I think you said that beautifully. You've touched on something that within themselves, we're all mirrors for one another. And so they see in you something that they may have desired in themselves and vice versa. Like we all see everyone is a reflection of us, and how we interpret it is our interpretation of that particular moment. And we are in a great change. It's being called the Great Awakening for a reason. People are realizing that they don't want to live this life that has been lived for the last few generations. They're seeing the outcomes. They're seeing people living with dis-ease. They're seeing people working for the future. They worked 40 years to get to a pension, and then they're not healthy enough to be able to live out the life that they were building in their dreams when they started in their 20s. And when people are faced with that difference, there is a conflict and the confrontation, because they say, oh, there are new options. I would have loved to have had those. And instead of sometimes seeing it as an opportunity, people can see that as a regret. And so, again, that's up to each individual how we interpret that ourselves. But we are in a time of change. We are being the change makers. We are creating lives and designing the lives of our dreams. And that takes deep work. That takes reflection. That takes bucking the norm. And that takes living a different life. And that life isn't for everyone, but we're not all here to live the same life. So I think it's great, your reflections and what you've learned in life, and the way that you can convey that to all of us through your work, through your writing, through your storytelling. I think it's such a great gift that you are giving to the world. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah. And so we are at time here. So let's move into the lightning round. And I didn't ask you in the beginning, but where are you currently in the world?
I am in Groningen, Netherlands.
Nice. And so what is the first question in the lightning round is, what is a travel tip for that location?
Oh, pack rain gear. It's a very damp country. Like everything, rain pants, rain jacket, umbrella, head to toe.
We're getting like serious on the rain gear. We're like top to bottom.
Yeah,
so
waterproof, not resistant. Don't come here without it, please.
So that's just blanket. You're going Netherlands rain gear.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I'll die on that hill.
That is great. I love it. And question number 2 is, what is a book that has inspired you to design this extraordinary life, or just inspired you in life in general?
Ooh, one of my favorites is Love with a Chance of Drowning by Tor de Roche. Are you familiar?
I've heard of that book, but I do not know anything about it. I've seen the title around.
It's very funny. It's a memoir about falling in love with someone who's about to sail across the world and joining them.
Oh, yes.
It's beautiful. It'll have you laughing from the first page.
Brilliant. I will add that to my list. I spent many years traveling the world by sea, so this would be perfect. And the next question is, what is something that you can't live without and you always carry with you?
Is this travel related, or I guess just in general?
Just in general, just something you have with you all the time.
I always have my iPad. I'm a big note taker and like journaler. So to me, being able to like write an endless amount at any moment is, I never leave the house without it.
I've seen you online. Do you use an app on your iPad? What is it that you use for your writing?
I use GoodNotes, and that's where my planner is. And I just use that I have like different notebooks. I have like my travel planning and my day-to-day planner, and it's endless. It's beautiful. It's like in her Harry Potter where Hermione has her like purse that goes on forever. That is my iPad with notebooks. It's like,
oh, nice.
Endless.
Yes. I love it. If you could see my desk at the moment, I probably have 7 notebooks. So digital
love it.
is, yeah, something for everything, right? last question is, what is at the top of your bucket list for destinations or adventures?
Oh, right now I am probably about a month. I'm about to leave to journey to Istanbul. So kind of following part of the old Silk Road, which connected the east to the west. Those were like the trade routes that really, it was just a very fascinating part of the world going from Asia through the Middle East to Europe. And yeah, the train route just opened up to take the train from Bulgaria into Turkey. So my husband and I were going to go to Indonesia next. And whenever we saw this, we changed our plans and now we're going to travel overland from the Netherlands to Turkey.
Oh, brilliant. That's really awesome.
I'm
That'll
so
be so,
excited.
yeah, that sounds like so much fun. And where can people find you online or work with you?
I have everything on my website. If you want to find all the links, they're on my website, writingfromnowhere.com. And I would love to connect with anyone. I'm very active on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to connect there, my name is spelled Kayla, Kayla, and my last name is Ihrig, Ihrig. So if you send me a little note that you found me on Kim's podcast, I would love to connect with you there. And yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone anywhere and chat. You can also just send me an email if you want. Everything's on my website.
Brilliant. And I will link all of those in the show notes. And so thank you so much, Kayla, for chatting with me today and sharing your story. It has been such a pleasure.
It's been so nice talking, Kim. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and happy travels.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
I loved so many things about that conversation. And here are the key takeaways. Questioning the norm and asking yourself, isn't life supposed to be more fun? Can lead you to a life that you've only dreamed of. Number 2, everyone regrets what they don't do in life, but almost no one regrets their travel. That is all the more reason to prioritize that experience in life. Number 3, allow yourself to be a leaf in the universe and blow where you're supposed to go. Number 4, remind yourself of this in those moments of doubt that will inevitably creep in. Remind yourself that if other people are figuring this out, why can't I? Number 5, focus on helping others. And sometimes in life, that leads to questions that will change your life, such as the one with Kayla. Could I pay you to do that for me? Number 6, you don't need to see the whole staircase. All you have to do is say, I want this to happen for me. Declare that you want it and then get to work, one tiny step at a time. Number 7, know that your progress might not happen as fast as you want, but keep at it. Success will inevitably follow. Number 8, everything that happens in life happens while you're traveling. It is not about running away from life or ignoring those emotions or those feelings or not having those conversations, because you are the thing that you take with you everywhere you go. So even though traveling may be a way to explore the world and learn about yourself, you will still face the same challenges that you face in your day-to-day life. You just have a different view when facing them. The quote that I would like to leave you with today is by David Mitchell. He said that when you travel far enough, you meet yourself. And so much of the conversation with Kayla today is about that. It's about, as she said, the pendulum of life swinging back and forth, that placing ourselves in situations that require more of us or require us to really look at who we are in the scenarios of life. And for many of us, and I would imagine those of you listening to this episode today, travel is one of the ways that we allow ourselves to be seen. And it is the mirror to us. And we are able to really reflect on who we are as a person within our world, within our communities, within our relationships and our families, our friendships. it really gives us a lens to see the ways that we may be shining brightly or the ways that we have room to grow. And I really cherish the lessons that Kayla shares about the realness of life and the ways that entrepreneurship and travel really are a direct reflection of the ways that we can see and improve ourselves. And the better that we are within ourselves, the truest version that we can be of ourselves, the greater our world becomes for everyone. And so thank you for listening in today to this beautiful story. I hope that you too found inspiration as I did. And I hope that you have found within you or are finding within you the bravery and the trust that you too can create the life of your dreams. Until next time. Thank you so much for showing up and listening to this episode. I know that there are so many things in life that you could be doing right now. And so it means a lot to me that you're here. There are so many more episodes coming your way. So if you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to review and follow us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you know someone who might like to hear it, please share. Those little acts of kindness mean a lot and help more than you know. I appreciate your time and getting the opportunity to share this moment. I'd love to hear more from you. I'd love to connect, so reach out on social. You can find me on Instagram at Seafaring Wanderer. That's SeafaringWanderer. And then you can join our Facebook group at Design Her Travel Podcast. I would love to connect, hear more from you. Let me know what you'd like to hear more of, places you'd like to hear about, and things you'd like to know how to do when designing your life. So thank you, everyone, and I'll be back soon.